So Deadeye on a Kremlin. It's actually really good. To no one's surprise, really. 10% better dispersion at long range is awesome. It's incredible. And for a ship like Kremlin that has pretty poor long range accuracy, or at least it's supposed to, when this ship was released, for those of you that don't know, it had actually really good long range dispersion, as well as really good short range dispersion. It just had really good dispersion everywhere. If you want to get a look at what that was like, imagine a Lenin, but at tier 10 with longer range and overmatching shells. Because all of the Russian battleships got nerfed except for the premium Lenin very early on in their life cycle because it was just too good at long range dispersion. So, because of that nerf, Deadeye actually is really nice on this ship. And it almost feels like that original Kremlin that I played, which was a ton of fun because you're probably the tankiest battleship in the game, and then you get pretty good dispersion over matching guns. Yeah, it's pretty nice. Of course, you still have to deal with cruisers just getting overpenned every time you shoot at them, but it still works. As you can see, the Conqueror's already taken a chunk out of my life pool. So we're definitely going to try and use islands here. So just like how I always do in brawling builds, use islands to try and get a little bit of cover. I mean, 5 hits on a DD, that's nasty with these shells. It's so good. But yeah, to take Deadeye, you actually have to give up fire prevention, or your extra heal and damage control. It's up to you. I think on Kremlin it's probably better to keep your extra damage control and your heal. You'll see that the way I play this ship is in such a way that I'm not risking getting lit on fire multiple times, right? I'm trying to play my battleships in a way where I don't need fire prevention. Because if you get stuck and caught out where you can't get away from the HE spam, you're basically dead in this patch. The Conquerors, Thunders, even Cruisers these days, honestly, are just too strong, really, as far as long-range HE spam is concerned. So that's why you got to take breaks behind islands like I'm doing here. Also, I'm waiting for torps to come by because the Daring pretty obviously torped here at me. It's pretty much the obvious torpedo threat. So, definitely stopping. He actually waited and did some single launches later on, which was pretty smart actually, but didn't quite manage to reach me. And there you go. First kind of taste of that juicy dispersion. We're already at 50k. Pretty nice, honestly. If you haven't enjoyed Kremlin because of its long-range accuracy as of late, definitely give it a go, because right now the ship feels very nice. And of course, it's a tier 10 battleship, so you need 30 millimeters of overmatch, which this thing does have, so you can actually smash a Des Moines. You can actually do those kinds of things. And because Kremlin, for whatever reason, gets this better concealment than most other tier 10 battleships, where it's like 13.7, I believe, you actually activate Deadeye more often than other tier 10 battleships. So you can actually play at closer range and still get the better dispersion, which is kind of hilarious. Yeah, I like this ship a lot now. I liked it before, but with this Deadeye buff, it's pretty sweet. The problem is, of course, that it's just better to play Conqueror or Thunder. It just straight up is better. I don't know if Wargaming is going to nerf Conqueror and Thunder. Probably not. I guess that's kind of their vision of the game, is to just spam high explosive, but hey, that's that. Now, I want to talk about decision making real quick. I'm pushing forward here, and that might seem silly. Like, why would you push forward? Your DDs are behind you, your cruiser isn't even ready to push with you yet. Why would you do that? Well, if you look to my right, you can see that the GK is pushing. And if a friendly battleship is pushing in alone, and you're in a battleship near them, you should really push in with them. Assuming it's a reasonable push, okay? Don't just suicide. This is a reasonable push because we have island cover coming up. their destroyer's been pushed back, we've killed their Des Moines, we've killed their Hindenburg, and there's just a bowing conqueror. So it's a reasonable push that I was going to make probably a minute later than what I actually did start pushing. It's a play that I was going to make anyway, but because the GK was so interested in pushing, I decided to go right away. Because you can see our GK is under half health already, and the Conqueror is just going to farm him down for all of his HP. So we want to make the most out of his his sacrifice, basically. That's kind of what's happening here. Unfortunately, GK is just an inferior battleship at this point to a Kremlin. If you're looking to push in and brawl, play a Kremlin. Don't play a GK. The secondaries aren't worth it anymore. Not since they got nerfed on their accuracy, and you got to take more skill points to make them work. And obviously, the meta has shifted even farther towards long-range HE spam. Now, keep in mind, we don't have Deadeye right now because the Conqueror is within our detection range, and he's lit. So no Deadeye on the shot, but you know, it's okay dispersion. That's kind of more what you'd expect from Kremlin. Now, the biggest thing to worry about is isolating fights, right? We don't want to push into a Republic, Conqueror, and Kerr first all at once by ourselves. That's a really, really good way to die. That's a really good way to die. Now, I kind of wasted that shot there, but you can see I'm trying to use these islands. That's the way to play in 10.0 if you want to push up. Think of it like a Des Moines, and if you haven't played a Des Moines before, you're just island hopping. That's my best advice I can give you to survive pushing in a battleship. Most maps kind of suck for pushing in, and it's sad because they've made tier 10 maps too small, in my opinion, where the islands are too close to each other so that all these tier 10 long-range HE spammers just shoot over all the islands. Right, they shoot from one spawn to the other. So I think the maps are a little bit too small, or at least the islands aren't positioned in such a way that allow for you to push in right now. But there are some islands that make it doable. So you can see I'm stopping here, trying to avoid the Republic fire along with the GK. And then we're just going to shoot this GK superstructure. If you didn't know, which you should at this point, but Battleship superstructures are so weak. They're probably the most vulnerable thing in this game. Even more vulnerable than a light cruiser's citadel, because you can at least just overpen a light cruiser most of the time. That's just what happens in the game these days. But a battleship superstructure is usually going to be angled to you, and it just eats damage. It feels like it just never saturates fully. That was 17,000 damage to his superstructure. He's angled at a 20 degree to us. He's perfectly angling to us, and we just 17k'd him. How stupid is that, right? So now, imagine I'm playing that Kerr first, and I'm trying to push in and, you know, stay angled and playing correctly. Like this GK has been playing correctly right now, where he's trying to stay angled and all that stuff. Now I don't know what he's doing, turning out or whatever, but it's just shoot superstructure. Now he's turning in, so I make a mistake here. I shoot his belt, and then we don't do much damage, right? Because he turned in. That was a smart play by him. But if I just shoot his superstructure, we're like guaranteed 10,000 damage, maybe more. Like, it's really annoying to me that superstructures are that vulnerable. It's really annoying to me. And, of course, GK is one of the worst defenders because it has one of the biggest superstructures in the entire game. So you can just guarantee massive hits on it. And it's so big, in fact, the shells are arming inside his superstructure. It's sad to me. It's really sad. I wish there was some sort of mechanic where superstructures saturated like a Kleber hull or something like that. And maybe that would allow battleships to push in more. Or maybe you'd give battleships a certain amount of HP. Maybe there's only like 50,000 HP in a superstructure, and that's it. So once that 50,000 HP has been farmed out, you can't get any more out of the superstructure. Or something. I don't know what the solution is, but it seems a little odd to me that you can just indefinitely shoot a superstructure and you kill a ship. And that goes for destroyers as well, where you can just spam high explosive into a superstructure and kill a giant battleship for free. And I did recently get Smolensk. I finally worked up the free XP for it, which surprisingly didn't take too long. It took around, what, 23 days? So I got it yesterday, and I'm recording this on the 24th of January. So on the 23rd I got it, and I had 1 million free XP at the beginning of January. So 23 days for 1 million free XP, that's pretty good, I think. So if you've got 1 million free XP, you could probably still get a Smolensk by the end of next month when it finally leaves the store. But yeah, played one game in it and farmed a Republic for his entire HP pool through his superstructure, getting instant fires because that ship has such high fires per minute. I don't know what the solution is, but don't just blame Deadeye for the reason battleships aren't pushing in. It's all a matter of it's everything in the game that prevents a battleship from pushing in these days. So I'm not blaming battleships for sitting at the back. The people playing them, it sucks, but this is the way wargaming has crafted the meta at this point. There's not really much else to do other than sit at the back and wait for the game to end. Which is sad. So that's why I'm probably going to be playing more lower tiers where it might be a little bit more possible to push in. I'm not sure of that yet, but I don't really know what else to do. Tier 10 is just pretty campy these days. You can see 12k into a superstructure at 18 kilometers. He's perfectly angled. You know, it's just sad how much damage you eat at long range still, even when you're angled properly. So, yeah. Honestly, though, Deadeye Kremlin feels pretty nice, guys. It's a good ship. It's a good ship. And so this might be one of the only ships you can take to maybe push in and brawl a little bit these days. I'm not sure about GK or Ohio even is like struggling to push in ever. So I don't know. This might be the only chance at some brawling, and you can snipe a little bit with it. So looking at how I build this ship, I am using Kuznetsov here, and this is the build that I've been running. I'm not sure if it's the best one yet, but if you saw my build guide for battleships that I put out earlier, it's pretty similar to what I've been trying to run. Deadeye is basically mandatory, which means concealment's basically mandatory, and then you're choosing between fire prevention and emergency repair expert. I do think, especially on Kremlin, emergency repair expert's better because you get that extra damage control to deal with fires. Fire prevention's a very good skill though, so I wouldn't say it's wrong to take this. It's up to you. It's your choice. Now, Adrenaline Rush, I think that's pretty obvious. Basic survivability is potentially there. If you have a 21-point commander, I would probably do basic survivability as your last 3-pointer skill. And then I'm taking AA Gunner because this captain also goes to my Slava, and I do want better AA in that kind of ship, where the AA actually matters. And the rest of these skills don't really matter. Your guns already traverse very quickly. You're not really trying to get into situations where you need vigilance. I mean, it probably would be good too. So if you're just running a Kremlin build, I actually probably would run vigilance. But this also goes to my Slava, so the AA is nice to have. Then emergency repair specialist. Honestly, preventive maintenance probably better. You don't really need gun feeder. You're not really switching to HE in this ship for the most part, so that's kind of what I'm running right now. But it's kind of a range build that takes advantage of the tankiness of Kremlin when you can push in, basically. So I am running reload, pretty standard. Honestly, I'd probably run range if I could. If there was a range mod, I probably would run it. Oh, sad is that. Concealment, and then, yeah, tankiness, accuracy, pretty standard stuff. And I'm taking the auxiliary armaments mod because our anti-air is very good, but it has 0 HP on the turrets. So they die very quickly. So that's why I'm taking that, to hopefully keep them alive for a little bit longer. And that's the Kremlin. It's a good ship, this patch. Not as good as Conqueror or Thunderer. Not as easy to play as Conqueror or Thunderer. because those ones just play themselves, basically. You just start the match and you load HE and shoot things. But if you want to try pushing in a little bit, I would recommend Kremlin over something like a Kurfürst or an Ohio. This thing can actually do it a little bit. Just make sure you use islands intelligently. So, thanks for watching, guys, and I hope you have a great day.